you mentioned when you were with him, he had stopped the drugs and alcohol. I know some of that had to do with you because you wouldn't put up with that, and people need
Mm.
positive influences on their life. But what made him turn to that? Because obviously he couldn't have been that. I know he was partying a bit when he was a boxer. You can't party that hard and fight as hard as he was, but I imagine it went down more after the false diagnosis. And how did he overcome it?
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Hannibal. And the timeline is so important. Again, when people blog, oh, well, he could have done better in his career if he hadn't partied. Well, look at the career that he had. You know, at the beginning of our interview, I've just told you his career. And you got to remember, you know, a teenager in the, what, 80s, 90s, it was all, you know, rock and roll and women and drugs. I mean, that's how things were in, you know, in those years. Now, I don't come from a background of drugs or drinking or anything like that, and to suddenly be with somebody who is on drugs and basically filling a void in his life. He got kicked out of his career. You look at his career, that's his life. His whole life was boxing, and it just disappeared in a vapor, just like that, as he mentions. So when he and I met, this was 2009, and he was broken. He was broke. He was on drugs. He was still drinking, and it was hard for me to see that. But I listened. I listened to why he was doing that, and basically I said to him, "Do you still want to do that? You know, do you, you know, I'm not a hooker. You know, I don't drink. I don't have tattoos, right? I'm not the right person for you. If you still want to do that lifestyle, like the media say that you're into, then that's it. Go get on with it." And it was at that time that he looked at me and he said, "No." And he literally did cry, and he said, "No, you're the right person for me. I don't want to do that anymore." So it wasn't easy. You know, you catch things like, for example, he couldn't wait to check the mailbox, right? And one day I went and saw what was in the mailbox, and it was syringes. Somebody was sending him syringes so that he could continue shooting himself up with Adderall, which is what he was doing. And so when I found out the address of who was sending these syringes to him, I called her, and it is a she. I called her and I said, "Stop. You know, you're just fueling the fire." He desperately wants to try and do drug rehab. So she agreed, and so that got rid of the syringes. And then, of course, then he had to get rid of all the friends that were still texting him, and he didn't have to buy drugs, Hannibal. He was given drugs because it was so cool to be seen next to a heavyweight boxer that was spaced out of his mind. And that's how people enjoyed being around him. So he had to delete all of the numbers out of his cell phone and then sign up for drug rehab. And and he did it. And he would have excuses. He would say, "No, I'll drive myself there." And I'd go, "No, no, no, no. I've taken the day off. We're going to drive together." And I'd literally drive him, go walking into the drug rehab with him, and I would wait outside, and we would drive home. And we did that, and we continually did that. And so the drug results, and I've got a copy here, just one set. I don't know if you can see any of that on the screen. Can you see any of that? But it is negative. Negative for meth, negative for cocaine, oxycodone, all that sort of stuff. And he actually did drug rehab and successfully did it. So that's one of the things I do, Hannibal, is get out there. You know, you can be absolutely desperate You can have lost everything in your life, but there's still another chance, right? You can still try and do rehab, and he did it. And it wasn't the first time he had done drug rehab, but this time he literally said, "No, don't contact me. I don't want this. I want to do drug rehab." And he did it. I think the worst part was, getting rid of the so-called friends that aren't really your friends if they're wanting to see you spaced out. So that was the hardest part. And I took a lot of stick for it because obviously people were losing their heavyweight boxer, right? Their buddy that they could just see shoot himself up. But his life mattered, right? And I keep saying that. And anybody that's on drugs out there, he would say the same. You have another chance. And during his life, he actually helped some people that were on drugs and tell them that it's not worth it. Give it up. You've got a chance. You've got a life. So yeah, that